Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. So today is December 1st. You know what that means? We're going to be ranking every single movie that came out in the month of November. I'm incredibly excited about this. I think November was a really good month for movies. If nothing else, it at least had an ungodly amount of movies that came out, and I'm really sad because I missed some of the big ones that I wanted to see. So, before I get too far into the ranking, I'm going to be ranking 9 movies because I only saw 9 that came out. And I want to go ahead and put this little disclaimer. I am only one man. I am a relatively busy person, so I did not get a chance to see all of them. Starting off, we're going to be talking about the movies that I missed. I want to go ahead and say the movie Priscilla. I did not have a chance to see it. The movie theater near me is a small theater, and it doesn't always have every single movie, and that was one of the ones that didn't make the cut for it, so I didn't have a chance to go to a bigger city to go see this movie. And then in the same vein, the movie The Holdovers, I really want to see it. Paul Giamatti is absolutely incredible, and I love everything he's in. And I really wanted to see that because I heard it's one of the best movies that's came out this year. And some people are saying it's going to be a future holiday staple. So I'm excited to see it whenever I get the chance to. But it's not going to be on this ranking because I haven't seen it yet. Other ones that I haven't seen, The Good Burger 2. I don't have Paramount Plus. And then the last big one that I did not get a chance to see that I'm really upset about, Trolls Band Together. I'm a really big fan of the Trolls movies. I think that if nothing else, the humor in those movies work really well for me, but I haven't had a chance to see it, so they're not going to be on this list. But that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into this ranking. Alrighty, coming in at 9th place and in dead last, we have the movie Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Personally, I've made a video talking about how much I really dislike this movie. I am a giant history nerd. In the future, I want to be a history teacher. It's one of my big dreams to teach the future of America, but also specifically to be able to tell the story of some of the coolest things in history. And in my opinion, one of the greatest historical stories, one of the greatest people in the history of ever is Napoleon. And this movie decided to take none of the things that make him a very interesting person in history and instead focus on his love story, which I do think that Vanessa Kirby performed really well in this, and I do think that there's a lot of interesting stories to tell about it. I feel like the fact that Napoleon never quite felt like he was enough at home, and his home life really did impact some of the stuff that he did as a general, but I really hate the fact that they basically sidelined the fact that he's one of the greatest generals in the history of the world, and he's one of the best strategist that's ever faced the planet. He's one of the most powerful leaders that's ever faced the planet. In history, he is one of the biggest, most inspirational people ever. He's somebody who is so impactful and somebody who could turn a room full of people against, their entire country because he was in exile and he came back and he won over his army again because he was that loved, he was that respected, he was somebody who was super admirable. And in this movie, they made him a giant man-child baby. They basically made it seem like he was worthless without his wife. And I really hated the fact that they took one of the most interesting people in history and turned him into such a lousy character that didn't really resemble the historical impact of this guy. I think Napoleon is a very, very cool person in real life, and this portrayal was just not great. And I don't know if it's on Joaquin Phoenix, if it's on the director. I think that the script didn't really work in their favor, and I think that this movie is also a good example of there's a lot of beautiful scenes in it, but since none of it comes together well, it just feels very all over the place, and it's a giant mess, and I really wish I could have liked this movie, but being a history nerd, I have moments in Napoleon's history that are some of my favorite historical moments, and the fact that some of them are not even really in the movie, and they're like 30-second little things that get brushed over immediately, really, really insulted me. It feels like Ridley Scott kind of missed the point of Napoleon in history, and I feel like he wanted to tell a different story, and Napoleon was just a cool figure that he could use to tell the story he wanted to tell, and I really was not a fan of this portrayal of the character, and it really disappointed me. Speaking of disappointments, coming in at number 8, we have the movie Wish. I defended this movie so heavily before it came out. I was like, guys, you guys need to give it a break. Wait for the movie to come out before you absolutely trash on it. It has potential. I think that Disney as a company has made some incredible movies, and I think that a lot of the times their trailers are not very well put together. Like, I feel like last year there was a movie called Strange World that came out, and all of the trailers really sucked for it, but the movie itself, if you had watched it, it had a lot to really enjoy about it. So I was kind of defending Wish for a while, and then it came out, and it felt like a relatively incomplete movie. It felt relatively rushed. I think that this is one of the few movies they have that is like, what's it called? just an hour and 30 minutes, and I feel like this movie needed about 15 or so extra minutes to really build out the characters. I feel like the third act happens incredibly fast and everything is just kind of quickly rushed together. There's a couple of moments here and there that are like really cool. There's a lot of funny moments, but it also feels like they really just wanted to profit off of some nostalgic, and I do think that it does feel very nostalgic, and there's a lot of moments in here that if you are a huge diehard Disney fan, you'll be like, oh my god, that's great, but like also because of it, this movie has no self-identity. It doesn't feel like its own thing. It's too derivative of a bunch of other things, and it just kind of doesn't really live up to any of those other things. And I feel like that's a big problem. If you're going to be referencing other movies in your movie, you should be on the same level of them or as interesting as them, because if not, people are going to be like, wow, I wish I just watched that instead. And that's definitely the feeling I got during Wish. There's moments of it that feels like Encanto. There's moments of it that feels like Tangled, but overall, the movie never feels like Wish, which I think is kind of disappointing. It had a cool concept, and I liked the animation. I thought that was good. I thought that one of the songs was good. The rest of them kind of were. They were all a little, like, poppy in spots where they shouldn't be poppy. Like, there was a really sad song after the person went through, like, a really, like, depressing thing, and I was like, it started off with, like, a type beat, and I was like, why is it going fast? This person is like supposed to be sad right now. It felt like this movie just was very tone deaf overall. But yeah, not a big fan of it. I think that come to see it, you know, a couple of years from now, maybe it'll be a little bit better, but it was very disappointing. Alrighty, and coming in at number 7, we have a movie that I had no expectations for, and it didn't really hit any like special notes for me. We have the animated movie Leo. Personally, I'm a big fan of Adam Sandler, so when I saw that he was going to be voicing an animated character, I was like, okay, cool. Overall, his voice acting, it's not bad. It's not really memorable. It's literally doesn't stand out at all. But this movie, in my opinion, had a very interesting plot. I like the whole idea of there being somebody who's been a class pet for so long, and then they're going out into the real world. And I think that this movie had potential, but overall it felt like very like standard. There wasn't anything super special about it. The fact that it was a musical actually felt like a jump scare. That was really weird. I wish they had advertised that that was going to be a musical. But overall, I think it's fun. I think that it's obviously like if you watch this with your kids, the kids are probably going to enjoy it. But I didn't think that there was a whole lot that made this movie special or worthwhile. But like I said, Netflix original. If you want to throw it on, watch it. It's there. You'll enjoy it. Like it's not bad by any means. It's just not very entertaining either. Alrighty, and coming in at number 6, we have a movie that I once again didn't have any expectations for, Quiz Lady on Hulu. Personally, I just watched this movie because Awkwafina was in it, and I thought that it was very enjoyable, but I will say this, it has a lot of the cliches from comedy nowadays that I really am like, why are these still a thing? Like, what happened? Why did, like, comedy back in the early 2000s was great, and it actually relied on, like, great humor, whereas now they kind of throw in some, like, really obscure things to really, like, push the story forward. Their mother being somebody with a gambling addiction who accidentally, like, you know, gets caught up with, like, mafia-type things and owes an ungodly amount of money to some, like, cartel-type thing, and it was like, that felt very like, okay, yep, that's a thing that's happening now. And then there's a bunch of stuff like that in this movie that's not really great, but I think that overall this movie has like a good like sisterly bond. They're two sisters that really like get on each other's nerves, and there's a couple of cute moments here and there that kind of like really bring out that like family power. Like honestly, if you have a sibling and you love them and you hate them, it does a good job of showing that love-hate relationship, and it loves showing the lengths that people will go to for their siblings, which I think is great. But I think that overall, it just feels relatively flat. It's a comedy that didn't make me laugh that much, but in the end, Will Ferrell playing an Alex Trebek type character was pretty great. I think that this is one of my favorite roles that I've seen Will Ferrell in a really long time, and that was very refreshing, and I enjoyed that. And I think that the entire third act of this movie felt really good, and I think that it paid off everything that happened in the earlier scenes a little bit. So as much as I was at first very confused by this movie, I think that I was very appreciative of where all the like notes landed at the end. And it did have some funny sequences. I just, personally, this humor didn't really land with me, or it probably would be a little bit higher up on the list. Alrighty, coming in at number 5, and I might be getting some hate for this, but I really enjoyed this movie, and I think that it was a whole lot of fun. I have The Marvels. Personally, I think that this movie is kind of something that I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe needs right now. I think too many people right now are like, oh my god, Marvel Cinematic Universe needs to start doing more serious things. They need to do more adult content. They're too silly and they're too childish, and Disney is, oh my god, making Marvel so wokeified or whatever. I like the Marvels. I thought it was pretty good. I thought that Aman Vellani in this is incredibly fun. I think that Brie Larson in this works really well. And I think that it also retroactively fixes Captain Marvel and like Endgame and stuff like that. You see like she's super distant and you're always like, why? Like why is this character just like not feel like Captain Marvel? And they kind of build upon like the stuff that she's been doing in the last 30 years and they kind of filled in some of the gaps for us. And I think it worked to introduce a lot of the character work. I think that that's fun. I think that Samuel Jackson is incredibly fun in this. He's finally back to feeling like the Nick Fury that we actually had. Secret Invasion, why Marvel? Like, that didn't need to exist. This Nick Fury worked incredibly well, and I think that Nick Fury is somebody who works so well as a side character that, like, this was nice. This was refreshing. Personally, I think that this movie was everything I needed it to be. Fun action sequences. The body swapping stuff is some of the coolest stuff that I've seen in a comic book movie in a while. Like, I feel like comic book movies are so, like, since they're happening so often, you just constantly see the same fight scenes over and over again. It's very hard to come up with something new, and I think that the concept of people swapping characters, like, across, you know, planets and galaxies and stuff like that was cool. I thought it worked really well. Yeah, there's a forgettable villain that's not that interesting. Yeah, it is very rushed. I will give it that. But I think that the first 30 minutes is a lot of fun. I think that it's a very funny movie, and I think that there's some good action sequences. So, yeah, I thought it was good. Alrighty, and coming in at number 4, I have Next Skull Wins. Personally, I was a really big fan of this movie. I think that this is Taika Waititi where Taika Waititi does his best work. As much as I enjoy Taika Waititi, I do think that some of his stuff that he's done with the Marvel Cinematic Universe recently has been a little weird. Some of the episodes that he's directed for Star Wars, it's great for him that he's getting, you know, to do those things with those big scale characters. But I feel like this is where Taika Waititi does his best work, with lesser known characters, with people who have more interesting stories, people that are more of like a family dynamic. Like, I think that he does a really good job of showing people coming together in ways that you wouldn't necessarily expect. And Next Skull Wins was a really fun movie. I think that it was incredibly wholesome. I think that it's incredibly heartfelt. And Michael Fassbender in this movie, whole lot of fun. I absolutely love his character. I like the whole somebody being really hard on other people because they are, you know, building these walls and they like need a chance to have that emotional breakdown. And when he gets that at the end of the movie, it's very refreshing. It feels very well earned. The halftime speech that he gives during that final game, really well done. It's very beautiful. And I really like this movie. I think that this movie is incredibly fun. And as somebody who grew up playing soccer, I do have a lot of like a stronger connection to this movie that I feel like a lot of other people will. So some people are probably like, I don't know if this movie is actually that good. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. Once again, it's a it's a comedy movie that didn't have a lot of humor that really worked for me. There was a lot of like times where I was probably supposed to be laughing that I wasn't. And that being said, comedy is subjective. And I was able to tell that it was a relatively funny movie and it was a very fun movie. And it made me cry. It's one of the few movies this year that's made me cry. Like Michael Fassbender's character really hit close to home, and it was good. I really liked it. Coming in at number 3, we have a Netflix original, The Killer. David Fincher, so back. I've only seen one David Fincher movie before this one ever, so I can't actually say that. But I did think that The Killer was a very good movie. I feel like this movie did a really good job of, like, being patient. And I really like the fact that, like, Michael Fassbender's character starts off as somebody who's very, like, calculated. He's very slow. He knows what he's doing. He's very successful. He's very smart. And you can feel it in the pacing of the movie. And then towards the end of the movie, he kind of gets, like, a little more, like, he's going off the rails, in a sense. And you can kind of feel that, like, speed up as his character kind of loses control and kind of, like, loses his patience a little bit. And he starts killing people that he doesn't necessarily need to kill. And I think that this movie also is just incredibly poetic. It's very cinematically beautiful. And I like the fact that the first 30 minutes establishes this character has all these rules, and then as he goes through and he's killing each people, he kind of breaks one of his rules every single kill. And then by the end of it, he kind of learns that vengeance has consumed him, and vengeance is kind of a monster and it's a plague, and it's something that's not really good for him. So he spares the last person's life, which I think is very beautiful, and I really, really enjoyed this movie. Alrighty, and coming in at number 2, we have Hunger Games, The Ballad of the Songbird and Snakes. Personally, I love this movie. I was a big fan of the Hunger Games movie growing up. I really like dystopian film, that entire era with, like, the Maze Runners, the Divergent series, all those things. I really enjoyed them, and I've been wanting kind of a renaissance or like a return to dystopian films because I think that there was a lot of concepts there that worked really well, and I think that those movies did a great job of like evoking a different kind of emotion in me. Every time I watch some of the Hunger Games movies, they make me feel this like rage. They make me feel like actually like passionate about something, which is really weird because like for the most part, when I'm watching a movie, unless it's like just like sadness or like happiness or like maybe fear when watching a horror movie, it never really makes me feel that much emotions. But these Hunger Games movies do such a great job pulling emotions out of us. I really enjoyed this movie. I think that bringing us back to the Hunger Games and actually showing a Hunger Games in this movie was incredibly great. I think that the fact that they made us really like President Snow a little bit kind of helped us relate to him, kind of helped us see that he's a poor man trying his best to succeed in a world full of rich people and trying to be successful at the Capitol where he probably doesn't actually belong. I kind of like the fact that he feels like little bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing in a sense where, like I said, he is trying to fit in a place that he doesn't really fit in, and he sees it as he has to fit in here to be successful, and because of that, he's accidentally driving himself to kind of keep the Hunger Games going. And I like the fact that for the most part, it's unintentional, the fact that he's keeping the Hunger Games alive, because he really just wants to win and he doesn't care who he hurts to make it happen. He really helps out Lucy Gray. There's kind of a love story there, which is really beautiful. I really liked everything with the love story in this movie. And I like the fact that he kills somebody in the Hunger Games or whatever, and then he kind of like realizes he likes it. He becomes evil in such like a natural way that I really like it. I think it works incredibly well as a President Snow origin story, and there's so many great tie-ins to the actual Hunger Games movie. There's so many great parallels. I think that all of the stuff with like Katniss being referenced in this is great. I like the stuff with the Mockingjays, and I like the stuff with all the other like symbolic things that you see in the other Hunger Games movies. It's really, really good. I think Lockie Flickerman, absolutely hilarious. Aside from the Hunger Games catching fire, I think this is the funniest Hunger Games movie, and overall, I thought it was a really, really good movie. Now, coming in at number 1, we have the movie Thanksgiving. Oh my god, I loved this movie. I just watched the Scream movies for the first time ever last month for Halloween, and I really like these slasher horror movies. I think that they're a whole lot of fun. I think that there's a lot of great things to be done with these movies, and I love the whodunit nature of this. I really like the teen atmosphere that we get. I think that all of the high schoolers actually feel like high schoolers in a sense. Obviously, they look older than high schoolers, but like for the most part, it genuinely feels like very youthful. I love the youthful energy in here. I love the all of the kills in this are super original and unique. I like the fact that they are chasing after people for a specific reason. Like you can very much like see the motive behind why these people are being killed, and I think that as a whodunit, it works incredibly well. I think that the killer in the end, it's for the most part predictable, but there's a couple scenes in here where he says things that reference parts of the movie that he wasn't a part of. So like you could tell they were kind of trying to like trick us with who the killer was, and so there's a couple of continuity errors in that, but like overall I think that the mystery of who the killer is pretty interesting. I think that they have a horror victim, like the main victim, who's actually kind of smart for once. At the end of the movie, she does something, and I'm like, oh my god, that's like genius. How did you even come up with that? I thought that was really refreshing. And like I said, every one of the kills in this movie are so unique that like they'll kill like 4 or 5 people, and you do not get tired of it at all because they're all super interesting. And I also think this movie was very cinematically beautiful. There are some shots in here that were very creatively well done. Like the scene on the trampoline or whatever, where it's like shot like right in line with where the base of the trampoline is. That was really cool. That was really beautifully well done. And yeah, I thought this was a very refreshing horror movie, and I really loved it. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much watching. If you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will hopefully, potentially, maybe, hopefully, see you guys in the next one. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.
He wanted me to drop a verse, I did this. We planned a day, then we did this. Wanna be in love with the girls with the kisses. Don't give a damn, I'll written this. I like this when I run the distance. I run a 5K, you go ballistics. I wanna live within the business. Buy more than what's on the clearances. You're getting big cause I know you're a physicist. I wanna deny this shit, I'm unlimited.